Hi, I'm Mimi Geerges. At 17, Tass Saada was a sniper for Arafat's fighters with one objective: kill Jews. After a life-changing event, he now works for reconciliation between Jews and Muslims.
I would study the life of the victim before I even attacked. They gave me the name the butcher.
Did you feel any sense of guilt?
Taking a human life, no matter how and the cause, it's not that simple.
Welcome to the Mimi Geerges Show. Palestinian Tass Saada was an angry young man. He had grown up in Saudi Arabia and had a burning desire to regain the Palestinian homeland and expel Israel. At the age of 17, he ran away from home and became a sniper and assassin for Yasser Arafat's PLO. Eventually, he moved to the US, married, had children. Then when he was 42, he had a supernatural encounter with Jesus and became a Christian. Tass Saada founded an organization called Hope for Ishmael, where he works for peace and reconciliation in the Middle East. Tass, welcome to the program.
So, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
So what's the solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict?
The only answer is Jesus. There is no other answer. I've tried and looked into many other answers that I can be direct about it. And really, because of my own experience in my own life, I took the weapons, I was an assassin, I did all the part of the military-wise to gain my land. But that all didn't work. But when Jesus came into my life, that totally changed, and I realized, especially when I read the Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God.
But it's not realistic to expect everybody in the Middle East to become Christian like you, and all of a sudden everybody gets along.
I don't expect. I do hope. I hope through the life that we have been living, the change that took place in my life, I'm able to make, through my testimony, I'm able to help people understand. I don't believe that I'm going to be able to change everybody, whether it's Arabs or Jews. But I do believe God is. And God is able and God is willing.
Let's go way back. You were born in 1951 in a refugee camp in Gaza. Why did your parents leave their home in Jaffa and go to a refugee camp?
Before 1948, as far as I know, and my father told me that they ran away because of all the attacks from the Israelis against the Arabs or the Palestinians at the time. So he took his sister and his brothers and his wife and their wives and went to Gaza to escape the war, basically. They went to Al Arish first, then they went to Gaza.
What were you taught growing up about Israel and about Jews in general?
It was so interesting. My father, I have never, if I can remember correctly, all my life until he passed away a couple of years ago, I never heard him say anything negative against Israel or against the Jews. That's what really amazes me. And I never really realized that until I became a Christian. I started thinking, why wasn't my father? Because everybody else around me, my friends and the older people, they all, of course, always speak against Israel and against the Jews. And
so you began hating them because of that, not necessarily from your home life.
No, not really. I hated them because I was living as a Palestinian immigrant and refugee. And naturally, hearing from other friends about Israel and the Jews taking our land, that created a lot of hatred and anger in my heart, not towards those who call me an immigrant and refugee, the Saudis or the Qataris, but against the Jews who I believed caused me to be an immigrant and refugee.
You were 17 years old, you were still in school, you hadn't finished. Why did you run away to join Arafat and become a fighter?
I was actually 16 and a half. I wasn't even 17 yet. I realized that the Arab leadership is wicked and they're selling us out to the Jews.
Arab leadership meaning Egypt,
Egyptians,
Jordan, Syrian.
Jordanians, Syrians, all of them. To lose the war in 1967 war, to lose it in such a humiliating way that we have, it didn't make sense to me. I mean, we've outnumbered them in everything you can think of, but yet we lost the war in a very bad way. And that's when I decided that's it. I went to my dad and said, Dad, we have 11 of us. Let one of us go. Let me go fight for my homeland. Of course, he would not.
He said, finish your education and then you can go.
Exactly.
But that's why you ran away.
So I ran away.
Didn't they know where to find you? Wouldn't it have been obvious where you were?
He knew we ran away because I told him that I wanted to join Yasser Arafat. And he was a big donor for Yasser Arafat. So he had an idea. But nobody knew where I was because my name was changed. And I demanded that name was changed when we got to Syria. See, we went to Syria first, and I was taken in by Fatah guys, and they gave me the name the Butcher. That was my nickname in the beginning before I even started. And so Arafat was my only choice, and my parents could not really trace me down or track me down.
You actually participated in close combat with Israelis.
Yes, I did. When we finished our interrogation in Syria, then they sent me to Jordan and was trained in training camps. We were trained by some foreign trainers, North Koreans, North Vietnamese, and Chinese. And so we were given a very good training. And so I used to cross across the river, the Jordan River, when it used to be really big. Right now it's only a small river. But at the time it used to be huge. I mean, you really have to be careful to cross. And so go looking into Jordan and Israeli areas, looking for Israeli military. At the time we did not attack Israeli civilians. We were instructed by Arafat not to attack civilians, only military.
But you were trained as a sniper. Did you feel any sense of guilt at all for what you were doing at that time?
At that time, yes, of course, especially my first operation. My first, as a fighting battlefield, I was in the Battle of Al-Karama, and I was vicious. But I never had face-to-face eye contact with people as I fought them. We had to survive. But as a sniper or eventually become an assassin, you know, when I started becoming an assassin, I would study the life of the victim before I even attacked them. So I know more about themselves probably than they know. And so shooting the first person after that operation was very devastating to me. It took me a while to get over it. They had to take me to detox in order to get back, because taking a human life, no matter how and the cause, it's not that simple. It's not that simple.
You said that at first you didn't target civilians. Did you eventually target civilians?
Eventually I did. It become, my anger towards the Jews become more severe. And then it wasn't just Jews. It was not just Israelis. It was also Christian Arabs that I was targeting in Jordan.
Why? Why Christian
We
Arabs?
believe that the Christians are spies to the Jews, for the Jews. And so, you know, it was my own initiative. It was not orders from my leaders. As a matter of fact, when they found out, they were not very happy about it.
Your parents found you. They brought you back to Qatar where you had been living to finish your education. You were absolutely out of control during that time. I mean,
I was angry.
Violent criminal behavior.
I was very angry.
Why?
I wanted to go back in the battlefield. I was tricked by my father because I came back to give comfort to my mother. she was hysteria. And eventually, when they found me, it was coincidence that they found me, but God, I think, ordained that. And so for them to trick me that way, I was not very happy, and I was doing everything in my power to cause the government of Qatar to kick me out of the country, basically. And
your father said, you need to get out of the country. You're causing too much trouble.
Eventually, I've become.
Why America?
That's a very good question. I hated Americans just as much as I hated the Jews. And I hated America, of course, because America stood for Israel against us. And we believed that they hated us because of that. And so why did I go to America? I personally even didn't know why I was so drawn to go to America. In the beginning, I thought it was my friend who was there ahead of me. But later on, I began to realize there was something else drawing me. And that something was quite a few years later.
Well, you married an American woman named Karen, really just to get status, to stay in the country.
Exactly.
How was your marriage in those early years?
Was not the greatest, I must admit. My intentions was to marry an American girl, get my papers in America, maybe 2-3 years, and then say goodbye. But I could not divorce her. I just could not. I continued my life and continued to try to build my American dream.
And you did. You actually became successful. And an American friend of yours invited you to his house. Mm-hmm. What happened on that very fateful day?
That took 19 years. It was a relationship that built through 19 years together.
So you were 42 at this point?
At that time, I was 42 years, yes. And it was, I believe God really was orchestrating that, because I went back to buy a restaurant where I started working there as a dishwasher. And to buy that restaurant, I didn't want to leave it in the rental property. I wanted to buy our own building. So I was looking for a location. And my friend Charlie, who really loved me so much for 19 years and respected me, and he was trying to help me find a place. And so he told me about a place I should go to look at. This is mid-February 1993. So Charlie, I was there just 3 days before, which I did. I went 3 days before to see this building. This building used to be an old funeral home where they fixed dead people there. As a Muslim, we know that any places that had dead people in it have demons and ghosts in it. So when I went to look at that place, knowing what it was, I was so scared I physically ran out of there. So I said to Charlie, Charlie, I was there 3 days ago, and man, when I walked in there, I felt demons all over the place. He laughed at me for the first time in 19 years. He looks me straight in the eyes with such a boldness, and he says, Tass, do you know why you felt scared like that? I said, no, why? He said, because you don't have the fear of God in you. I was shocked. I said, Charlie, I'm a Muslim. I fear God. He said, no, you don't. But he said, not to worry. I can help you with that. I can fix it. And he points his finger to the sky and said, I have connection. I laughed at him and I walked away.
But you started really thinking about it. Like, what does that mean?
That took me over. That word connection just took me over. I kept more and more preoccupied with that word, trying to figure out what it is. What is his connection? Every time I call him, he would not let me. He would not tell me. He'd say, oh, you're not ready yet. 3 weeks went by. I got to the point where I could not eat. I could not sleep. I was so messed up, I cannot focus on anything else. I used to smoke. I went up to 6 packets of cigarettes a day. Finally, Charlie decided it was time. He took me to his house. We sat down. I said, Charlie, what is this connection? He said, what do you know about Jesus? I said, I know Jesus. We believe in him. He's a prophet. He said, well, he's more than a prophet. I said, what is he? He said, he's the Son of God. He's God. I jumped off that sofa and I said, Charlie, that is blasphemy. I don't believe in this. I don't know what's wrong with you, man. I'm getting out of here. And I was storming out of the house. He yelled at me and said, Tass, calm down. Come back. Sit down. Just give me a couple more minutes. I love him so much. So I went back, sat down, went. He left. He came back with his Bible, brand new Bible, took it out of the box, and he set it right between the two of us. When he did that, I jumped away from it. He said, why did you jump like that? I said, I can't touch that. He said, why? It's just a piece of paper. I said, no, it's got the Word of God and the name of God in it. He said, so you believe this is the Word of God? I said, yes. Why did I say yes when we as Muslims really don't believe that? But yet I said yes. He said, okay, if you believe this is the Word of God, let me read to you what it says about Jesus. I said, go ahead. He takes the Bible and he opens. He did not change papers or anything. He just opened it. And he smiled and he began to read to me. He had no marking. Brand new Bible. And he began to read to me from John 1:1. He said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God in the beginning. That's as far as I heard him reading. I started shaking. I lost conscience. The next I know, I'm on my knees on the floor with my hands lifted up, inviting Jesus to be my Lord and Savior. I'm looking at Charlie, and he's shaking, and he's crying, and I was worried about him. I thought something happened to him. I said, Charlie, what's the matter? What happened? He said, man, I've never seen anything like this in my life. You looked weird, but I like it anyway. And he comes and he hugs me, and he said, and he's crying, and I'm crying. And then he said, when I started reading the Word to you, you started shaking violently. And then you were taken off the sofa in the air. Then you were brought down to your knees. He said, you looked like you were fighting something. Then he said, your hands were lifted up. And he said, you started speaking in a language. He said, I didn't know what you were saying. I was speaking to a light that was saying to me, I am Jesus. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And there is no other way to the Father except through me.
You saw that and heard that?
I saw that and I heard him speaking. And next to that was two hands in the air like this, with the cross tattooed right there. When I saw those hands, I knew exactly whose hands were those. It was the hands of my nanny, Maryam. She was my nanny when I was 7 to 10 years old.
In Saudi Arabia?
In Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. She took so good care of me. She loved me so much. But my father sent her away when I was 10 years old and never saw her or heard from her since. And since then, my life was never the same again.
How did you react to finding out that Jesus was a Jew?
It was not acceptable. It was not. It was really tough for me. But you know, the thing is, before we walked into that house, Charlie said to me something that stuck me, that really made me angry. He said, Tass, to have the peace that I have, you must love a Jew. He had a peace about him that I really wanted badly. And he knew how much I hated Jews. He knew for me until that moment, it was a good Jew is a dead Jew. That's what I believed. But I thank God that he loved me enough that he was willing to tell me the truth.
Did you start to see some immediate changes in your life?
Not too long after that. You know, I was reading right after I guess he gave me a Bible, so I was reading the Bible. So I was reading Matthew 5:43 and 44 verses. 43 verse, the word said, it was said to you, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your neighbor and pray for those who persecute you. I was so angry. I jumped off that sofa and I said, no way. I knew what the Lord was saying to me in the Word.
To love your enemy.
To love the Jews, my enemies. No way, I will never love them. They did this to my family. They took my house. They did this and that. And I was screaming and crying. And then suddenly I hear a little voice in my ear saying, he did more than that to me, but I still love them. And that just broke me. Just broke me. I went on my knees. I was crying. Said, Lord, if you love them, I will love them.
You decided to tell your 19-year-old son that you'd become a Christian. What happened?
The next morning after I was saved, that's another miracle. I woke up that morning and I felt there's the same powerful feeling I felt at Charlie's house, right in my bedroom. I lost power in my knees, fell on my face, and started crying and worshiping a God I did not even know yet. And then I heard myself praying, oh God, bless your people Israel. Oh God, gather them back to the promised land. I heard myself saying this. I literally took my mouth and took my hand and shut my mouth. What am I saying? I jumped off that sofa and I ran out of the bedroom. My son was 18 years old at the time. I looked at him and I said, he was in the bathroom shaving. I said, son, I want to share something with you. He said, what, Dad? I said, yesterday, he said, I said to him, yesterday I gave my heart to Jesus. I think I become a Christian. His eyes got so big and his mouth just dropped and shaving cream all over his face. He comes running, hugging me and crying, and I'm crying. And then he started saying, oh, Dad, I'm so happy for you. And son, why are you happy for me? I said. He looked at me and he said, Dad, 3 months ago I gave my heart to Jesus too, but I didn't tell anybody.
And he had been praying for you.
He and his church where he got saved,
they were all praying.
Were praying for me.
So the other part of your family, which is your father, your mother, your siblings, they're all still in the Middle East. They're Muslim. So you wrote to them explaining, this is what happened to me and I've become a Christian. They didn't respond very well.
No. Especially my oldest brother. He wrote me back a 21-page to my 7-page letter. The bottom line, he was saying, you don't come back to Islam, we'll make sure you're dead. And I tried every way I can, and I couldn't. And he acted on it. He sent assassins after me to kill me. But thank God he protected me. But it was hurting me so much because I love my family. And I wanted so badly for them to know what I know, to feel what I feel.
You actually went. You told your brother, this is when I'm arriving. And he said, you obviously have forgotten I'm going to kill you. So
yeah.
You meet at the airport. What happens?
I came out of the airport in Doha, and there he was out there waiting for me with his gun and 2 of my younger brothers and my older sister and her husband, because my sister doesn't count for a full person.
This is to be a witness to the honor killing.
Yeah. I knew what he was doing, and so I just put my suitcase down and went back to him. And I kissed him on the right side of his neck. And when I did that, Karen, my wife, and our intercessors have been praying for us for a favor. When I did that, he broke down and he started crying, and he just came and hugged me, and we both crying. And
you had the opportunity to speak to Yasser Arafat not long before he died. What did you say to him?
I said, enough bloodshed. I went there to witness to him, basically. And I wanted to share with him, is enough bloodshed. Our people have suffered enough. I said to him, when I say our people, I don't mean just my people, the Palestinians. The Jews are also our people. Enough bloodshed. I said, I found my peace, and that peace came through the person of Jesus Christ. And I was looking him straight in his eyes in his desk. His eyes got so big, and you remember his lip was shaking. It was shaking even worse. He looked at the other person we had with us. We had 2 other people. looked me back straight in my face and my eyes. Just looking through his eyes, it's like reading his heart. He's saying, don't go any farther, stop right there.
Tell me about Hope for Ishmael and what you're doing in the Middle East.
When I got saved, I realized that myself and my family are not saved just to be Christians, that there is a calling on my life, on our life. And so I began to prepare. And eventually, my calling was to go back to where I was born, in Gaza, and to bring healing and reconciliation, to build a bridge of peace from Gaza to Jerusalem. And eventually Hamas discovered that, and 2 years later, and they attacked us. And then I continued the work through Jericho and Jerusalem to bring healing and reconciliation between Arabs and Jews. This is my only calling, the only reason. Raise up a new generation with a new hope. Raise up a young generation that had a better hope than I did. And that's to bring peace between Arabs and Jews.
Tass, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you, Mimi.
Nice
Thank
to talk
you for
to you.
having us here.
This has been the Mimi Geerges Show. You can see all of our programs on WHUT.org and YouTube. Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter and leave me your comments there. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me again next time.